Trump 2028. Could a president actually serve a third term? Are we heading into uncharted waters? Imagine those voices just overlapping on your TV, getting faster, getting louder, until silence. And then there's just a single image of a red baseball cap spinning in the dark with Trump 2028 plastered right across the front. Boom. Millions of reactions, instantly. So in today's Explainer, we're going to unpack how a single photo of a campaign that hasn't even officially started managed to restart one of America's oldest, fiercest debates.
Almost out of nowhere, right? This one specific question completely flooded television networks, took over social media platforms, and probably popped up in your group chats. Legal experts, historians, politicians, everyone was suddenly scrambling to figure it out.
And right alongside it was the ultimate follow-up. Is this even constitutional? It's fascinating and honestly kind of ironic how a simple piece of merch managed to reignite a constitutional panic going back nearly 250 years. Because, you see, this isn't just about a catchy slogan. It's a really profound question about the absolute limits of power.
Okay, so let's dive into this. To figure out what just happened and why this slogan caused such a massive global meltdown, we need to look way past the modern media frenzy. We're going to unravel a massive historical mystery about the American presidency itself, an office that, let's remember, commands the world's largest economy and impacts literally billions of lives.
Part 1, the unwritten rule and Washington's precedent. Let's set the stage.
To get our answers, we have to travel all the way back to 1783. The American Revolution had just wrapped up. The 13 colonies had defeated the massive British Empire, but they had absolutely no blueprint for what to do next. George Washington was the undisputed hero of independence. Honestly, if anyone could have become America's first king, it was him. In fact, European nations fully expected him to take a crown. But instead, he completely stunned the world by just refusing it. Years later, after serving 2 terms as the first president, he was still incredibly popular. He could have easily coasted into a 3rd term. But once again, he voluntarily stepped away. He peacefully handed over power, setting an unwritten standard that went entirely unbroken for the next 140 years.
So the absolutely crucial concept here is precedent. For over a century, the 2-term limit was not an actual law written down anywhere in the Constitution. It was just this deeply respected tradition. Every single president who followed Washington honored his example purely out of principle, believing that the presidency should never, ever become a permanent gig.
Which brings us to Part 2, Changing the Constitution, FDR and the 22nd Amendment.
You know, traditions really depend on people, and history absolutely loves to test them. Let's fast forward to the 1930s and 40s. The world was dealing with extraordinary global circumstances that would finally shatter Washington's unwritten rule. America was hit by a literal tidal wave of crises. In 1929, the Great Depression kicked off, wiping out businesses practically overnight and leaving millions desperate. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, was elected and launched the New Deal to try and stabilize things. But just as recovery was starting, World War II erupted. Facing the absolute deadliest conflict in human history, voters decided they needed stability way more than tradition. So, in 1940, FDR broke with 150 years of precedent. He ran for a 3rd term, won, and eventually even won a 4th.
But Roosevelt died in office just months into that 4th term, and his unprecedented amount of time and power sparked a massive constitutional debate. Critics argued, pretty forcefully, that no democracy should depend on just one individual for that long. This fierce debate eventually culminated in a permanent, historic change that the states finally ratified in 1951.
And this brilliantly captures the exact moment Washington's informal tradition became permanent, written constitutional law, the 22nd Amendment. It states, plain as day, that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. So regardless of how popular someone is, regardless of their political party, presidential power now had a strict constitutional expiration date.
All right, Part 3, What the Law Says and Examining the Loophole.
This brings us right back to the present day. When that Trump 2028 slogan went viral, it instantly set off a legal frenzy. So let's put the exact text of the Constitution under the microscope and look at these legal theories floating around. What's super interesting here is the exact wording. The 22nd Amendment says a person cannot be elected more than twice. Notice it doesn't explicitly say they cannot serve more than twice. Well, this led some legal scholars to go down a rabbit hole exploring a theoretical loophole. Could a former 2-term president run as vice president and then just assume the presidency if the leader resigns? To figure that out, you've got to look at the 12th Amendment, which says no person constitutionally ineligible for president can serve as vice president.
And honestly, legal experts completely clash over how these two amendments interact with each other. It's like a giant constitutional puzzle. And this is the absolute most important takeaway regarding the law. No court has ever ruled on this scenario. Ever. It has literally never happened in American history. Right now, it is entirely a subject of academic debate. I want to make it 100% clear. No constitutional amendment, no Supreme Court decision, and no federal law has ever removed that two-term limit. The 22nd Amendment is absolutely still in force today.
Part 4. The Attention Economy and Politics in the Digital Age. So you might be asking, if the law is so incredibly firm, why did this become such a massive global news story? Well, here is the real twist of our explainer. The strict legal reality of the 22nd Amendment is almost entirely secondary to how modern media and political campaigns actually work today. Notice this huge shift. Back in the day, traditional political campaigns competed primarily for votes. Today, they are competing for your attention first. Before people can agree or disagree with a policy, they actually have to notice it. In a world completely flooded with billions of posts and videos, winning the public's eyeballs is the mandatory first step before you can ever hope to win their vote.
And that brings us to the currency of attention. Think about it. Campaign slogans, viral photos, political merch like a bright red hat, crazy debate moments. These symbols travel infinitely faster across the globe than any detailed 50-page policy proposal ever will. A super catchy slogan or a provocative image completely bypasses the underlying legal reality. It speaks directly to emotion, right? It creates a narrative instantly.
Welcome to the attention economy. It's our modern media ecosystem where algorithms, social media, and a relentless 24/7 news cycle take controversial messages and just put a megaphone to them. This is exactly why a single unverified image of a hat can instantly dominate the global conversation. The faster information spreads, the less time there is to actually verify anything. Meaning, a simple slogan can completely shape public opinion way before anyone even understands the constitutional facts.
Finally, Part 5. Democracy's Enduring Test.
Let's zoom way out to the global stage for a second. You're probably wondering, why does this highly specific U.S. constitutional debate matter so much to the rest of the planet? Why does stockbrokers in New York and factory managers in Germany even care about a viral American campaign slogan? Well, look at the sheer scale of the American presidency today. The person sitting behind that desk in the Oval Office is leading a nation of over 340 million people. They're managing the world's largest economy and commanding one of its most powerful militaries.
The global impact is just staggering. A single U.S. election, or even just a shift in policy, ripples outward instantly. It rocks financial markets because the U.S. dollar is the global reserve currency. It dictates international security and the future of NATO alliances. It shapes global climate agreements, and it's even going to determine the future regulations of artificial intelligence. So when the U.S. presidency is being discussed, the whole world literally has to brace for the outcome.
But, despite all the wild noise of the attention economy, despite the extreme political polarization and these viral internet frenzies that pop up every day, there is a really reassuring truth at the core of all this. No president is greater than the Constitution. This underlying framework, backed up by independent courts and free elections, has peacefully endured and guided the transfer of power for nearly 250 years. Which leaves us with this one vital question. What kind of nation do we want to become? Because honestly, the whole debate over Trump 2028 isn't really just about one specific leader or some theoretical legal loophole. It's a mirror. It reflects exactly how a society handles its differences. The future of democracy doesn't rely on a catchy slogan or a single election cycle. It relies entirely on the ongoing, active participation of a truly informed citizenry. That's you and me.
I want to leave you with this final, really powerful thought from our source material. History remembers leaders. Democracy remembers the choices of its people. The system is always evolving, and it's always unfinished work. So the next time you see a viral slogan demanding your attention, just take a beat and ask yourself, are you just reacting to the algorithm, or are you actively helping to write the next chapter of history? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.